Yeah, you see, this is what we call a reunion. What is a reunion when it doesn't have part one, part two, part three? Come on, guys, that is the real reunion. Don't tell me about a reunion that has only one part and even that part. Like that show, what was it? The Ultimatum South Africa. Yo, that in Dine, that one irritated me. But anyway, I am happy and fully satisfied with the reunion of the length of the reunion of the Mommy Club. Not only that, the host with the most, Untombi, they got the right person. Because one thing about Untombi is not going to tiptoe around an issue. She is direct. Uzoyibuza ngqo. She's going to ask the questions to the right people, and she's going to, like the burning questions that the public has, best believe Untombi is going to address them. So I appreciate that so much about this Han. This is a recap on part two, so we'll see part three. I'll give a round off, sort of recap on the whole reunion and what I think it is. But so far, by just past two, I am satisfied. I am satisfied, you guys. So ngifuna uqalaphi? Where do I start? Where do I bamba? Where do I leave? Mrs. Mops. Yo. Abo Mrs. Mops. But I said on the reunion on part one, I was just like, you can see from Mrs. Mops's eyes, from her face, she is fuming, fuming. And listen, yeah, she poured that all of that fuming on Uratile. Yes, that's Mrs. Mops is not here to play. I must say though that I do feel like like as much as I'm like, yeah, like Ratile, like that comments that you made about her husband and that CEO, like, well, Ratile, yeah, telela, guys, yeah, telelu Ratile. I'm just like, ma'am, Ratile, I used to love you at some points, but now I'm just like, they can never make me like you again because there's just some, like the thing that I don't get, Ratile was mad. She was mad at Happy for Happy basically opening up her door to her nanny to say certain things, and certain things they omitted. I think the comments is about Ratile's husband, you guys, something to do with Ratile's husband. We don't know what. And yeah, she said that she can't like she's not keen on forming a friendship with Happy because Happy has crossed the boundaries of speaking and allowing someone to speak about her family like that. But is this not the very same Ratile that was saying that was crossing the boundaries and mentioning like family affairs of Mrs. Mops by saying she got that position through bed affairs? That is also crossing the bounds. That is also crossing someone's um boundaries. Like family is, she brought the husband into it by saying, Wuti, it's family, it's bedroom affairs. So Uradile, one thing about that I've noticed about her, she doesn't know how to receive the very same thing she dishes out. So what you dish out, ma'am, I don't even think that you've received half of the things that you've dished out to these women, like vile, nasty stuff, Radile. Like, no, like stuff that are just like, that is just like below the belt. So I feel like she dishes out stuff that she's not able to receive. And Mrs. Mops came for her. Yes, says Mrs. Mops. Hey, Mrs. Mops. Hey. But like according to what I've seen of Mrs. Mops is out of character. But maybe it was not a matter of being out of character. Maybe she felt like and I need to address this or else they will continue. Yay, I, Mrs. Mops, like, they'll never continue. They will never. Or I really hope not, because the way she came for them. But I was just like, but Mrs. Mops, yeah, like, as Nunu and I said, like, why are you shouting? Why are you shouting? And then she's not even giving Ratile an opportunity or a chance to talk. That is the part that like I was just like, okay, Mrs. Mops, we hear you, but calm down a little bit and later Ratile talk. I couldn't even hear like what Ratile was trying to say because every time Ratile tried to open up her mouth and explain and say something, Mrs. Mops would jump in. And Uratile, when they asked her to address what is the jabs that Angithi Uratile said the reason why she made that comment was because Mrs. Mops was throwing jabs at her. When they asked her what are the jabs that she threw at you, for an example, so she couldn't answer. She couldn't answer. So sometimes it's safe to say, I angimthandisisa umuntu. And mongamthandisisa umuntu, everything is a problem. Hmm? I feel like that's the case at Ratile. She just doesn't like Mrs. Mops, and everything becomes a problem because it just looked like she could not like mention anything. She had nothing that was concrete, and then she turned it on production, blah blah blah, with production in and all of that. I'm just like, girl, bye. Asikho isitori sakho. Hayi ke unompumelelo Thandeka what's her name? Muphahlane. Yeah, her surname Muphahlane. Nompumelelo Thandeka Muphahlane kayi-1, hayi kayi-2. Hey, thank you, siyabonga. Yay, the way she came. So she came for Uratile. No, Mrs. Sunday, she didn't even, hey, Mrs. Sunday was even scared to say anything because they didn't came to Mrs. Sunday. And then they asked Mrs. Sunday about some of the comments she was making, like the comments she made, ukuthi Mrs. Mops is president and Happy is deputy. Bebembuza ukuthi pendula phela girl for 10 marks, support your answer. Hayi, Mrs. Mops, she's like, I didn't mean it, did it? I didn't mean it in that bad way. You know, I want to tell. I'm like, no, Sunday. Everything when they try to ask you to be accountable or to account for what you said, she's like, I didn't mean it in that way. And everyone was like, I pendula girl. Everything. She's like, I didn't mean it in that way. I was like, not that she didn't mean it. After Mrs. Mops, yeah, Saba, plus Mrs. Mops is sitting right next to her. Mrs. Mops will chew her and spit her out. So she couldn't, she couldn't answer the remarks that she made, and then she ended up crying. Mrs. Sunday ended up crying and saying she is suffering from depression and anxiety, and she's been suffering from these things for 30 years. And it was such a sad situation. Untombi, the host, got up and hugged her, and Mrs. Mops as well. You could see, like, that's why I know Mrs. Mopsun is into Zaka, which I'm gonna come to you guys. I do feel like she did sympathize with Mrs. Sunday because she even patted her on her shoulder and said, no, we all go through stuff. And Mrs. Sunday, the way she was crying, like when something is so painful, guys, and you crying from a painful place, like you can't even talk. That's how Mrs. Sunday was. And she was like having like a mini attack, panic attack, because she couldn't even talk without her voice being shaky, like it was bad. She said she suffers from blackouts, so I guess trying to say that that's the reason some things she can't really justify them or explain them, because when you go through what she's going through, you do certain things, and then when you come back to your senses in a way, you regret the stuff that you did, and not that you really mean them, not that you really meant to be like an ugly person. And then she walked off stage, and I think that whole situation was a good representative of hurt people, guys. When you see people that are commenting and saying vile remarks and all of that, I always sometimes don't even take it personally, guys, because it's true. Hurt people. You can't say you are peaceful in your life, guys, and all right, yet you go around saying vile things about people. No. Or you just wake up, exit, and be rude to people that you know nothing about, and to be rude unnecessarily. It means, Uguti, there's something that's not okay with you. You hurt. Like, you can't be fine. Like, a peaceful person, a person that is peaceful with their lives, doesn't even have to go that low. And that goes to the same thing, guys, with the YouTube. If you are a type of person that comments and writes in people's comment section vile things, or even making videos about other people and saying vile things about them, you are not a happy person, and you need to do the inner work, because hurt people. But at the same time, I do sympathize, you guys, with Mrs. Sunday, but I also understand it still doesn't make it excusable for the stuff you do. It's not okay. It's not okay. Like, sometimes, you see the diary thing there? I can understand why people are kind of like mean in diary sessions, because the rest of the other people are not there. But there were certain remarks and certain things that Mrs. Sunday was saying and being rude, even in the group. And I'm like, when other people are there, Melube Namashoni as a person, you can't say certain things, you guys. So even though she's going through whatever she's going through, it doesn't make it okay. And I really wished that she could account more, because I agree with Unozi. Mrs. Sunday was not accounting and being fully responsible for the things she was saying. She was just hiding by saying no comments, or hiding by saying, I didn't mean it in that way. No, cause I explain what you really meant and then apologize for it. But then again, maybe she did not want to go back to the past, because maybe explaining it would have then raised people's emotions all over again unnecessarily, whereas she can't go back to the past and take it back. So I guess that is that. While we're on that, Lokuzano, Mrs. Sunday also said something. She said while in the episodes that she will always have Ratile's back, because whoever steps on her toes, or whoever steps on Ratile's toes, is stepping on her toes. But I was like, Mrs. Sunday, I really hope that you learned your question, because where did Ratile have your back in this reunion? Did she? Or was Ratile just sitting back there? Ratile... Or is Ratila just sitting back acting like a madam? Why didn't you have your friends back? Because your friend went through lens. She gained enemies. She's there having a mini panic attack because of comments she made. And the beef, like someone said, the beef was not even like about her. It was always about other people. But there Ratila was there acting like a madam, quiet. I really hope Mrs. Sunday learns that sometimes guys don't fight battles impi zabantu ongazazi ukuthi ziqale kuphi. Don't get at them. Do not get at them. That's all I'm gonna say. And I'm gonna park Mrs. Sunday's thing, but I really hope that she really does the work, because the reality show, she did say that, guys, that she was going through a lot and is valelendlini, and she felt like she needed an outlet, and maybe this show was the wrong show. Yes, ma'am, you're right. Reality TV is not a place for you to come out, especially if you're recovering from those type of things. Because the reality TV, you are going to meet different characters, and people don't know what you're going through. They're going to trigger you. So if you want to heal and come out for such things, I mean, there's Christianity stuff, there's NPOs, there's non-profit organizations, there's voluntary, there's many ways, not a reality TV. So I really hope that she does give herself time to heal, and yeah, I don't know, maybe to correct the wrong that she did, I don't know. But yeah, she must give herself time to heal. Who's next? That I wanna say something about Mrs. Mopps. Mrs. Mopps, you guys came in guns blazing about like the vile things people say, but I also want to say Mrs. Mopps is not all the innocent, you guys. Especially in the previous season, and I know I shouldn't be bringing previous season stuff, but I just want to say that previous season people, and she said it herself, people came for her for the remarks and the undertone that her remarks had. There's a reason why majority of the people say Utu Mrs. Mopps Upagem, and she's the queen and she's the leader of the group. Like guys, like if we're being honest, many people can't be saying the same thing. It's either you give off those vibes whether you mean it or not. There's something that's called unconscious biasness. And sometimes people will be biased to you unconsciously based on first impressions or based on what you give off. Not that unjalo. So all I'm saying is that if she's not happy with the remarks that people make, either number one, it means that she is phakeme kanjalo, or either there's something that she does or says that gives off the vibes that's uphagem, and if she doesn't like it, then she needs to do the work and find out what is it about her that gives off those vibes, because people can't be saying the same thing, you guys. So Mrs. Mopps is not all their innocence. Remember Mrs. Mopps also, when she met with Uomuhle, her friend, Uomuhle basically said, imagine saying umuntu odayisa imbali. Like to say, imagine like I'm being disrespected by a person who sells flowers. And they laughed it off, and it did give off the vibes that kahle kahle bona, they are saying they cannot be disrespected by someone who's underneath them who sells flowers. And then Mrs. Mops tries to explain that and then says, which I bought flowers from you, when production actually showed the receipts, honey. Nunu Rai was actually correct. Mrs. Mops bought flowers after the show had aired. And maybe she did that because she knew that Nunu Rai is going to see it, Alazi. But Mrs. Mops said no, it was before. But clearly, ma'am, you are wrong. You are also part of the people who have selective memory, as you were saying. But yeah, so she's not all there innocent. I get to which she came guns blazing for people, which was, which was well within her rights. But I'm just saying that she's not all there innocent. There's stuff that she said as well, and vibes that she gave that was also disrespectful towards other people. And Nunu Rai says that's why she made that whole COO comment, because of what her and her friend said. Who's next? Oh, lastly, Nunu Rai gets mad at Happy based on, you know what, I get what Nunu Rai was saying, and Happy is trying to be smart about it. She's trying to be smart about it, but she knows very well, Happy knows very well, ukuthi ayikho le nto ayikhulumayo, ukuthi she was wrong. She's the wrong one in acrimony. So this is the situation, you guys. What Nunu Rai's point, according to what I got, Nunu Rai was basically saying Barbara would not sugela a person like Happy and come and visit her because they're not friends like that, which means Happy is the one that invited Barbara to come to her house so that Barbara can say all of those things in national TV. So Nunu Rai is basically saying that Happy sets up the environment for Barbara to say all of those things. And Nunu Rai is basically saying that was not right. And that's the reason why I said I will pay for legal fees, because no one it's just below the belt. And the thing is, Barbara knows personal information about Ratile that a normal person would not know, because Barbara was in Ratile's personal space. She was Ratile's helper. So anyway, so Happy is trying to act clever and say, no, Barbara's the one who said that. Barbara's the one who came to me. Barbara sells curtains. And Nunu Rai asked a valid question, did you want to buy curtains? So I generally do believe Uguchi, Happy knew what she was doing. Like, it's no secret, Happy and Ratile don't like one another, and they keep backstabbing one another behind each other's backs. Like, they should just settle it. Like Ratile said, they will never be friends. Like, it's okay to say, Uguchi, in badly, like ngkhulekile, this relationship does not work and it will not work. But Happy knew what she was doing. Happy's a smart girl. There's no way she did not know what she was doing. So the thing that made Nunu Rai mad was that the rest of the other ladies were just sitting back and keeping quiet because it was Ratile's thing. And I guess because the Ratile says vile things about other people, so I guess like why should they come and fight for her whereas she says vile things? And Nunu Rai was like, guys, you all know what Happy did was below the belt, and you guys are sitting here keeping quiet. Now there's remarks that Barbara said that were removed from the show because it implicated someone who does not have a contract with Showmax. So as I said, I'm guessing it has to do something with Ratile's husband, because there was rumors that came out of Ratile's husband and blah 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 blah. And yeah, like Nunu Rai was like, nah, that is not okay. Anyway, guys, let's park it there. This was Iskatla. It was a lot. It was a lot. And you know what? Someone said a while back, and people have been saying that the Mummy Club brings much more drama and much more content than the Real Housewives of Durban itself. The Real Housewives of Durban itself. This is the Mummy Club, and you'd expect people to be sweet, cordial, because I mean, it's mummies. But listen, anywhere where there's a woman, there is bound to be cat fights. There is bound to be everything that is happening here. Anyway, guys, tell me what was your thoughts on part 2 of the Mummy Club, the reunion. Please do make sure that you like this video. Please do subscribe. It is absolutely for free of charge, and I'll see you on the next one.